Cold Lake.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister is out of step with Canadians. Canadians want and deserve open dialogue after 2 years of uncertainty. This should be about science, not political science, yet this Prime Minister would rather divide and stigmatize instead of giving people the certainty and hope they need. When will the Prime Minister stop doubling down on divisive rhetoric and commit publicly to a specific plan and timeline to end federal mandates and restrictions?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Since day one of this pandemic, our government's focus has been the health and safety of our neighbours by following the latest science. The most recent data indicates that the Omicron wave has passed its peak in Canada, which allows us to move towards a more long-term approach to managing COVID-19. We intend to follow the science, and we're working closely with experts like Dr. Tam and other public health officials to ensure that we continue to get through this pandemic together as best we possibly can, and that has been through vaccinations. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Renfrew, Nipissing, Pembroke.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister's petulance led to the firing of Ottawa's first Black police chief during Black History Month. It's yet another example of the divisiveness fostered by this government. The Prime Minister's own finance minister stood on the Maidan during Ukraine's revolution. Canadians want foreign interference from the Prime Minister's jet-setting resetters to stop. When will the Prime Minister listen to the majority of freedom-loving Canadians and end the mandates?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I've had, and I'm sure all members have had, the opportunity to talk to people who come from countries that aren't free, that know what it means to have their freedoms restricted in ways that are not able to live or to share their thoughts or to protest in peaceful ways. But I'm sure, and I would hope that the member opposite would agree that what we're seeing outside, the terrorizing of residents, the harassing of homeless shelters, the inability for Ottawa citizens to continue their life has gone way too far. Please stop supporting these illegal activities and join with us so that our lives can begin to return to normal.
The Honourable Member for Bow River.
Mr. Speaker, the science has changed. Canada's top officials, including Dr. Tam, have recommended review of COVID policies. We're seeing countries around the world with lower vaccination rates than Canada dropping the restrictions. We're seeing provinces in our own country dropping the restrictions. Is the government going to stick to its word and follow the science? When will the mandates for Canadian travellers who are fully vaccinated, and when will the mandates be totally dropped for the testing for Canadian travellers to return?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Speaker, this transition, including this week's announcement, is possible because of a number of factors, which includes our high vaccination rates and the increasing availability of rapid tests and treatments. As we've said all along, Canada's border measures will remain flexible and adaptable, guided by science and prudence. I have a quote from my colleague opposite, and that is, it starts here. Everyone entering Canada by land as well as by air, irrespective of their vaccination status, will be required to take a rapid test or possibly a PCR test. Where's that from? That's from page 19 of the Conservatives' election platform. Remember this magazine? That one. Thanks, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for New Brunswick Southwest.
Well, Mr. Speaker, life moves on and the government needs to move on with it. In December, the Liberals again imposed rigid COVID-19 testings on Canadians living in border communities who travel to the United States and return home, often within a day or within a few hours. The Liberals announced they would replace 72-hour PCR testing with a 24-hour rapid test. This doesn't help our border communities. 24-hour testing will continue to separate families and people in Canada's border towns. When will the Liberals allow Canadians to drive to the United States and come home in a single day without testing? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Health.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd remind the member again that you campaigned on testing as well, just like we did. While we're in a better position today than we were previously, this pandemic's not over yet. We all want this pandemic to be over, but it's not over yet. The Government of Canada will continue to assess the evolving situation here at home and globally, and while the members opposite continue to shout me down, it doesn't change the reality that this pandemic is not yet over. Thank you, members.